I watched a TED Talk on discrimination. This TED Talk was presented by Michelle Hubble. During the TED Talk, Hubble first explained that she would identify herself as a feminist, but she didn't really understand why. To kind of understand the concept, she explained a little bit about her past. She went to a Smith College, which is a college that is a all-female college, and then as soon as that happened, she left college and went to a business known as A&M. Um, During her time at A&M, she explained that she actually got her first experience with gender differences. The big difference that Hubble explained was that one day when she was leaving work, she ended up getting a ride for her friend since she didn't have a car. During her way home, her friend had to go and get some gas. However, when her friend actually went to get it, he locked the door with her inside of it. When he came back, Hubble basically asked why exactly he locked the door. He explained that no, he didn't want her to be taken. This immediately made Hubble realize how many differences there are between the genders of male and female. She also went to explain that there are many movements in history where many women had to face discrimination. This included the end of the 1910s to the beginning of the 1920s when women were able to get the right to vote, and the big one was in the 50s during the women's movement. Um, Hubble also went into detail about how it all applies to other discriminations like religion, race, and sexual orientation. Um, to understand exactly how discrimination would be, Hubble decided to perform a few experiments to see how it would work. Um, Basically, Hubble went out and she got two different hats. One of them said Texan proud, and the other one said gay proud. Basically, her experiment was to make students go out for jobs that were available using different discrimination types, with the hats actually being one of them. The students would have to have audio tapes on them to record how their interviews would go based on exactly what they would have with them. Basically, and they would be able to feed this back to Hubble. When Hubble re-reached these students, she realized that there were many different ways that these students were treated. An example of this would be if whoever ended up wearing the gay and proud hat had much discrimination. And basically, the person didn't really get that much of a job availability and hardly got much of a job callback. And the person also ended up receiving some interpersonal discrimination, where it basically meant that they didn't really have that close with eye contact. That means they weren't really paying attention to them that much. And the other one was basically their length of words, which basically means that their conversation wasn't exactly long. It was very short. It kind of showed me when Hubble was saying that whatever company that this person was that was wearing the hat must not be huge on somebody who is homosexual. Um, Basically, aside from that test, um, another test that was often was basically how a job application would do for a woman of a regular size and one that is more heavy. Um, Basically, from the results that were taken, they found out that basically the results for or the regular woman were the same for a regular person, while for a heavy woman it was kind of the same for the person who wear the gay and proud hat. Basically, um, kind of saying there was not really much eye contact with the person and less interaction with them. What it kind of told me during this test was that basically they were that someone really want someone to be heavy because they would be afraid of exactly of them hurting themselves, as well as their probably physical well-being. Um, as someone who has actually worked with some people who have been um, a little heavy, actually as someone who has helped people with heaviness, it's understandable to see exactly why someone would want to do this because they're only looking after their well-being. I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with their size at all. It just deals with the fact that they could be probably hurt either physically or emotionally, and basically they wouldn't want them to see them get hurt. Um, Another test was done with someone who was pregnant. Basically, this person was actually given some interpersonal discrimination. I kind of found that to be a little bit understandable because the person is pregnant and who is trying to find a job, and will of course have to leave that job to eventually give birth to the baby, and eventually have to take time off for maternity leave before going back, as well as the fact that they would have to make their schedule work around the exact same time for their child, so that way they can make time for it. Basically, from all the tests that were made, Hebel basically said that subtle discrimination is a big problem. Big problem. She actually explained that it's actually a more bigger problem than interpersonal discrimination. Basically, what I'm saying is they're different, which is obvious, but basically it's how it's approached. Like with interpersonal discrimination, that basically that's saying something like, you don't like the other gender or somebody for who they are. And all they can actually tell you is that that's basically your problem, that is not mine because I am who I am. And civil discrimination is probably a lot worse because basically all that's happening is you're basically offending somebody for doing something that isn't really their fault. It's more something that they deal with on a regular basis. Um, um, Basically, throughout these studies, Hebel ended up finding out that when people would be, adequate for the job, she found out that most women were written with she might, and men were written with he is. This basically kind of shows a little bit of a gender difference because basically the, of how males can be sometimes, because some people can think that males can be a little bit more adequate than a female can, and but they also end up finding out through the interviews that basically women are a little bit more caring when it would come to the job, while men would be more capable and independent. Um, Honestly, in my personal opinion, basically, I would think that um, it would be understandable to exactly say exactly why both a male and a female would be described a little bit like this in a job, but in my opinion, I think both would have to fall under the possibly or even he or she might category because basically we won't really know who is more qualified for a job than another, and basically we have to just figure out when a person gets hired for it. Um, Hebel basically concluded by saying that no matter who you are, you can still condemn reduces of discrimination, which I actually believe to be true. Now, I myself have never discriminated. I'm not huge on discrimination, and I try my best with not discriminating people at all. But basically, her final point is actually very correct, as basically we can help out discrimination out in our world and help people figure out help them figure out who they are and learn to deal with it. Basically, this can carry to the workplace a lot because people always have different opinions and it's who they are. And unfortunately, for some people, those opinions cannot be changed.